Hey folks, Blood here. And today I'll be familiarizing you with the F-86A5 and IL-2 Korea. Here we are on the ramp in our F-86A5 at Seoul. I'm going to go ahead and start the aircraft so we get engine power and instrument power. I'm going to press E to do so. Before I take you through the instruments, let's press L to turn on our cockpit lighting. This will make it easier to see what we're doing. Starting from the left, we have our gear indicator, these three green lights. Green indicates that they are down. By our left knee is our flap lever. There is no in-cockpit flap indicator. On the top left of our center console, we have our accelerometer, which will display the amount of G-forces being applied to the aircraft. Coming down to the left, we have our radio compass. Below that, we have our Mach indicator. To the right of our Mach indicator, we have our altimeter. And above our altimeter, we have our airspeed indicator. To the right of our airspeed indicator, we have our magnetic gyro compass. Below that, we have our side slip indicator. To the right of our side slip indicator, we have our vertical speed indicator. Above that is our artificial horizon. Above our artificial horizon is our trim indicator. To the right of our trim indicator is our EGT, and below that is our tachometer showing our RPM. To the right of our tachometer is our current cabin pressure. It should not be confused with an altimeter. Below that is our fuel quantity gauge. And to the left of that is our fuel flow indicator. The other instruments pertain to engine temperature and other technical details that we will not need for this video. Now let's go ahead and taxi. We'll use our tail/nose wheel steering key, or W, to unlock the nose wheel. Prior to taxi, with right Alt L, I'll turn on my navigation lights. We'll shut our canopy with C. I'm going to give the aircraft power gently until we start to roll forward. And I'm going to give it a tiny couple of taps. I'm going to give myself some left toe brake while I give a little more power. And deflect left rudder in order to use the aircraft's power steering. You can see my force feedback actually bouncing around. That is awesome. I'm going to taxi over to the hold short just before the runway. I'm being careful not to taxi too fast so I don't risk flipping the aircraft in these turns. Now, I'm going to lower my flaps all the way for takeoff. And just because it's good practice, I'm going to check for traffic. At this point, I'm going to taxi onto the runway. It takes roughly 55% throttle to get this aircraft rolling.
Eagle, this is Falcon. Requesting takeoff clearance. Over. Falcon Group. Takeoff. Now.
I'm going to be sure
Eagle, this is Falcon.
if that guy didn't interrupt me.
Takeoff clearance. Over. Falcon cleared for takeoff. Falcon everyone. Takeoff. Now.
Before taking off, make sure you roll maybe a few feet forward at least to straighten out your nose wheel and take a moment to lock your nose wheel. We'll apply the brakes and throttle up. Now, we'll release our brakes. We'll tap the toe brakes to keep us going nice and straight down the runway. But as you get faster, you'll start to have rudder authority, and you can just start to pay attention to that airspeed indicator, rotate at around 100 knots. That was a little early on my part, that's just fine. As the nose starts to come up, be careful to avoid a tail strike. We'll raise the landing gear.
Falcon, this is Gyro. Objective completed. Return to base. Falcon 1. Roger. This is Falcon 1. Airborne. Over. Falcon, proceed with your mission.
And we'll raise our flaps. We'll check back in up at altitude. Jumping ahead in time, I want to talk to you a little bit about the flight characteristics of this aircraft and how it compares to its main adversary, the MiG-15. The F-86 has excellent sustained turn performance between 350 and 450 knots. However, it should be known that the MiG-15 will beat you in a vertical fight almost every time. As such, you should try and fight in the horizontal. Leading edge flaps, which the MiG-15 distinctly lacks, allow you to pull 20 degrees of AOA compared to the MiG-15's 14. And boosted control surfaces let this aircraft outroll the MiG. Furthermore, the G-suit worn by your pilot gives you a cutting edge over the MiG-15 in high G fights. At around Mach 0.7, the aircraft begins to experience compression, and the aircraft will, in transonic regions, begin to violently pitch up without command. As such, care should be taken going into dives not to exceed Mach 0.7. If needed, you can deploy your air brakes. The aircraft carries by default a gyro sight. The gyro sight allows you to set the expected target's base size in feet and expected target distance. It will calculate lead on the target for those parameters. In a previous video, I covered the radar gun sight, so I will not cover that here, but it is available as a modification. Next to your gun sight, I've overlaid a card with the wingspans of most aircraft in-game. With all of that out of the way, let's work our way back for landing. By default, our radio compass will point back to our home base. And I just want to take a second to appreciate how beautiful this map is. Going to set up for a nice straight-in approach. Using right Alt-L, I'll turn my navigation lights back on. And using right Shift-L, I'll turn on my landing lights. Using my air brakes, I'm going to slow down to below 185 knots before I deploy my gear and flaps. I'm going to start to trim her out. And I'm going to drop my gear, configure for landing. Closer to final, we'll put our air brakes out to allow us to keep the engine at a higher RPM and thus being more responsive. And I'm going to fly an approach of 135 to 145 knots. We're going to be very careful not to get below 110 knots, as this is the speed at which the Sabre dance can occur. And remember, it's better to be fast than slow. Now that we're on final, I'm going to place the nose down so I have visual on the runway because the visibility is pretty awful in the cockpit. I'm going to give her throttle not to get too slow. I'm going to start to arrest that descent rate. Pull back on the stick, set her down nice and gentle. We're going to keep pulling back on the stick to bleed off that airspeed, but still avoid a tail strike and gently start to tap the brakes. All right, folks, thanks for watching. That landing definitely wasn't perfect, but it was something. This aircraft is going to take a lot of time to master doing things simple as landing, and I really recommend you stick to it, as I really love the flight model. Guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if this video helped you out. Plev, out.